only Freedom and Roll20. I think every other team in North America, specifically North America, has now picked up a head coach. So there's a lot of interesting develops we can get into more. But I think both of the teams are ready.
Well, we're all in the lobby with. I think we're getting readies on both sides. We're at least got readies from EKevin. Just have to wait and see. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. I am very much looking forward to seeing how my smaller region ends up going in the grand scheme of things, because we end up going up against Latin America in our intercontinental clashes, which is going to be. I'm actually very much looking forward to seeing how that goes.
I mean, you can. It's a different opponent. It's an opponent that pretty much everybody only plays on the international stage, and we play them a little bit from the West Coast, but not that often, and it's only in scrims. So that's an interesting one, because that could just between Oceania and South and Latin America, like there's potential for some interesting meta development and rivalry development over time.
Oh, I hope so. I so very much hope so. Just it's always fun when you get those interesting storylines between teams and players, and you can start to really get invested personally in some of the players and just see how it goes and develops. But we are into the draft. It is going to be those guys on the left, EKevin looking for girlfriend on the right, and first Ben yet again is going to be the Valera.
Yeah, even on Battlefield of Eternity, where I don't think you would expect Valera as often. I mean, kind of fitting that Zeratul role, where you would be fitting Zeratul into kind of that mid-roaming composition, but doesn't bring Void Prison, which is huge. And Cho'Gall ban, I know that's not troll. Like, I know that's not troll. Yeah. I can't remember who plays it on EKevin's team, but I feel like the Iberos might actually be the Cho'Gall combo.
Yeah, I mean, you tend to see Cho'Gall when they do pop up. It's more towards those smaller maps where you're not necessarily punished as harshly for the lack of extra body on the map. So this is one of those maps where
Fazd or Fazd. I'm gonna need a pronunciation check from the admins on that one. But apparently he's the Cho'Gall god. So that's where that comes from.
It just sounds like the difference just between American and English pronunciations of things like graph and graph.
I mean, people get really specific about these types of things. Like, this is how I say it, so this is how it is. And then you've like there are players. There's a famous player from another game who's notoriously known for changing how to pronounce the name like every event.
Yeah,
like every major international event it changes. It was driving some commentators crazy a couple of years back. All right, so we got Murd and Li Ming being picked up by EKevin, ETC Lucio being picked up by those guys. So seeing a couple of the strategies being I guess nabbed away from EKevin, at least taking away that Lucio. Itobi has been a pretty good Lucio. Even back during Dorm, he was super excited about Lucio.
Yeah, but just looking at what EKevin's side has right now, at the Genji Li Ming, they have the double resets. If they start to get those fights going, and they very well can, if they manage to catch Lucio out and manage to kill him before that sound barrier goes off, they are going to just rip through the rest of the team, and it could be a very, very rough fight for them. But the EGC Lucio, that's just a very solid combination of heroes. They are very strong, and it's also a very versatile start of the draft, so they can move in multiple directions. And not really giving up too much just yet.
Possible Vola ban. They are not going to ban Gazlo. Vola ban would have made sense. Taking out the Malthiel takes the double tank composition away from EKevin. It's what they ran last game. Gave them plenty of front line. Let the carries be pretty well protected. It's a safe composition. It's no triple assassin, no triple range. They will be getting rid of the Greymane instead, though. They want to take that high kill potential and the third reset character off the board. No reset hero for those guys. Now they'll be looking to see something like an Artanis. They need some DPS though.
Yeah, I kind of want to see something like off the wall like an Artanis.
Artanis is not off the wall. Artanis makes perfect sense.
Like specifically on this map, he does make sense because of amateur opponent. He can shred through the Immortal without too much problem, and like this is one of the maps where he does actually find a rather decent spot. But like just in terms of just in the general meta overall, he doesn't really find too many niches. So this is the one I kind of wouldn't mind seeing him, or even just like something like a Samurai, or because we've seen with a lot of the stealth rework heroes, they've had their power boosted just a little bit to compensate, but it is actually going to be the Sonya Tassadar. So they had their very solid solo laner of the Sonya, and the Tassadar is also going to be helping out. So it looks like they want to go more towards one of those auto-attacking heroes. Maybe the Valor that we saw was a potential ban. That's a potential, or even like the Tracer could potentially be the last pick going over for those guys.
I think they'll wanna pick something for the race. Sonya's decent in the race. And right now they have no race other than the Sonya, whereas Genji's okay, Li Ming is good, Alarak's okay. So like if you take no race, you kind of throw out that option. No ability to burn down the Immortal, that kind of becomes a concern. So Valo or Lunara, I think
Lunara could be an option,
your options.
If you want to be making the most of the Tassadar, I think a Tracer still could work into that lineup.
Grant us strength.
We'll just have to wait and see how they ended up. I mean, and the Malfurion Alarak is a rather interesting looking last couple of picks, but yeah, it does round out their lineup reasonably well. Alarak is also another hero that does have a little bit of a higher priority on this map, Battlefield of Eternity, more than others because of his ability to telekinesis people into a lot of the stuns from the Immortals while they're fighting around them. So he can be a real good defensive threat that you have to really be aware of with your positioning when you're trying to start attacking those Immortals.
Yeah, it's also good initial damage. You get one pull in, and then that's a clean setup for the reset. Just in terms of chunking at a target, taking all the time they have in the bank, which more than they're right. We'll see whether or not it is the Vala. I definitely saw where the Tracer would fit. I just think you've no race at that point. Like you then have to win and be ready to engage those team fights, and that takes a lot of confidence. And not to say the team couldn't do it, but you gotta know you can pull off that play, which means you have to pick the Malfurion and you gotta pick the Li Ming. You're never catching Genji, and you don't want to be fighting Alarak. So,
the Valor is more just consistent. They're going for more.
It's safe.
It's exactly that. It's just a safe pick, and especially with the lineup that they have. They have that front line. The ETC, the Sonya, is going to put up a considerable wall. That's going to take a little bit for the opposing side to get through. Sure, the Genji and the Li Ming can kind of just say, I don't care about your walls. I'm just going to dive in and just hope for the best. But the Valor should have enough protection around her that she should be able to get that damage out and be a consistent threat to the side of EKevin.
All right, we've got our two teams loading into the Nexus. I want to thank you guys for joining us once again here at the HeroesHype Holiday Series. I'm the source, joining me is GL Phoenix. And make sure you guys are checking out the Matcherino page to help support the event. You guys can add in those Matcherino codes for $1 to add to the prize pool. The code is HHH1. And if you want to support it a little bit more and get your hands on some cool gear, there are headsets and keyboards discounted for your convenience, and that money will go into the prize pool. And we should be loaded in momentarily. Which composition you have your money on? If it was $10 now, I'm not saying it is.
Oh. That's a
we'll also say Australian dollars because your money is way cooler than ours.
It's also worth much less.
Let's not get into the geopolitical economics of the Australian dollar versus the US dollar. Well, we could save that for HeroesHype After Dark, where we get real serious and break out the whiskey.
Yeah. I like the lineup from EKevin. I mean, it's it's a lot of damage. You have to be very careful with all those threats. And if they start to pick up one member, it's just going to roll through that lineup. So that is a big threat. We'll just have to wait and see if it's a very solid and consistent lineup coming out from those guys. And if they're able to just they just essentially need to stay safe. And if they can do that, I think they can take the fights.
A 5-man stack towards the bottom for the side of EKevin. They will all be seen. Nobody gonna stop the Sonya just yet. Looks like it's gonna be the 2-man. Nope. Just gonna be dead. I thought Droplets was gonna join him. Actually, Droplets on this Genji. So Droplets, usually the split pusher, usually the offlaner, is now gonna be playing the Genji in this game. Instant damage onto Treebeard. Droplets. Ooh, great bit of damage in from EKevin.
Yeah, nice orb and just forcing all the members of those guys back in. Sure, they have a lot of the healing coming out from the Lucio, and that's essentially free healing. They're just going to have to stick around with that hero, and they'll be able to be just fine. But a nice start for the side of EKevin, just pushing in, and it looks like they might be able to even get a kill. The power slide in from Satat, put himself in a real precarious situation. Does manage to get out of there. The double support, it's still pretty decent. It's not as dominant as it once was, but it's still, if you get into those right situations, double support is still incredibly strong.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the fight over globes, but that's a big thing that's coming to the game. Now that these globes will turn themselves neutral after a certain amount of time, having really good lane dominance can set you up for serious control. We do have Droplets creeping up towards the top. Down here in the bottom, we've got a siege moving in favor of the side of those guys. Droplets will be rotating back down because he couldn't really find any plays there, as Alarak is just having a good time and keeping Sonya under pressure. The stun misses though. Actually, they're gonna get the root in there, so a little bit of constellation crowd control. Didn't result in a kill, and things just gonna continue to be a stalemate.
Yeah, it's essentially what we're seeing from Droplets is essentially what we've been seeing for quite some time, just on these 2-lane maps and the Genji, is that you essentially just try and survive in the multi-man lane on the bottom side, and you just have this Genji just floating around trying to impact both lanes as much as possible. We saw him on the top side trying to get this Alarak advantage. They're actually just going to take this camp while they can. While, as we see on the bottom side, they're not really losing anything. They're taking a lot of damage on these towers, which will eventually drop, but they're also still able to get a lot of all of the experience from the minions, so they're not missing out too much. They will be able to get to level 4 just in time, actually get it a little bit ahead of time, in time for these immortals to spawn.
Yeah, no big losses there. The opponent will take a slight experience advantage. Those Khazra camps up in the top, they'll help them push a little bit more. Both teams waiting to see where these immortals are going to spawn. Ooh, but good clear from the side. Fast jumps in, a little bit of pressure onto Li Ming. They'll get off the root. Genji actually goes in, wants to drop her health bar, and that orb missing from EKevin. That's a little bit of a problem now. Droplets will get the reflect, flips himself out of there, and now they're going to look to rotate onto the immortals. Could be a defensive play though for them, but I think with all of the damage they have, they might as well burn.
Yeah, just a little bit of aggression, just forcing away the members of those guys. As you mentioned, it just gives them a little bit of extra space to just burst down as much as they can onto his immortal. And once they, there we see from the Alarak doing a great lockdown.
Another stun's coming in!
Oh, and the follow through from the Genji's managed to pick up the first one, and this is where we start to see this come to life. They pick up the first one, and then they just start moving forward very quickly. But they are going to just take this first kill, move back, and just secure this first immortal.
Yeah, that's actually a good 3-man defense. Genji or Alarak's not going to do very good consistent damage over time, so send him down with your support and your warrior and just go fight. Put some pressure on the enemy team, and it results in them getting a kill. They will be up a little bit of experience, not much though. And actually that shaman camp was started by the side of those guys, so they'll have that to help them defend.
Yeah, and that is always a nice thing to have on defense. Those shaman camps are always so obnoxious to deal with. Arguably one of the strongest neutral camps in the game, and they are going to be quite cautious with this approach. They're doing a decent amount of damage to Satat, but now that the shield has been removed, they are just time to move in. They are looks like they're only going to be able to get these first couple of towers before this immortal goes down, but still, they've got a decent amount of experience in their hand. It looks like they're bringing Dan down to try and make a play. As EKevin takes a lot of damage, does manage to back himself out of there. Now they want to go in. Satan is dropped it very low, but Droplets is actually going to take aggro from the fort, and he's actually going to drop.
That silence was so good from Dan, but they couldn't turn it into anything. He actually got ETC with the silence on the power slide. So right as ETC was trying to look for the engagement, but it's going to be the kill going over to those guys. It's really just structural advantage. They're actually structurally more or less even across the board. Now Blue Demon trying to get aggressive, stepping up the enemy team. Gunner is low, and now they can get very aggressive into this backline. They need to get Itobi a little bit further forward. They need that root.
They just kept taking so much aggro from their Kazakh camp that they just dropped so very low. ETC ends up falling because of it, and it looks like Droplets wants to get in for some resets, but is going to be forced away. And it looked like it was a reasonable position. They had their double supports with them, but they just weren't sustaining enough, and they were taking aggro. They were standing on the camp while it was still up and just firing away, and those backline. And the backline of those guys was taking so much damage, and they couldn't actually stick around in the fight. And the ETC came in at a good time, but as we saw, there was just not enough health bars on the side of those guys that they just end up losing out in that fight.
Yep, we also start to see a rotation. We're going to be paused for a little while. EKevin asks for it, and he shall receive it. So slows things down a little bit, gives the teams a little bit of time to talk. If this were land, there'd be no conversation, but it's not. And stakes aren't that high. So they'll be conversing about what to do next, talking on the side of those guys about how they set up that play. It's actually a very short pause. Everybody's good to go. And now the rotation of the 4-man is going to be heading up top to try and push down those towers on the side of Kevin.
Try and catch out this Sonya. She's going to start working her way towards this camp, but we see she has to make her way out of there, realizing that there are just too many members of EKevin up on that top side that it was just way too risky and not worth the risk to try and take that camp on her own.
Alright, camp going over to them. The Immortals will be started soon. Blue Demon playing this front line. Lucio getting so much damage in and slows down Dan long enough for a kill to come through for those guys. Droplets over the wall is going to take some damage from the Sonya. Root comes through. She gets slowed down. Orb there to counter back. Treebeard instantly gets himself out of there. Nope, no more follow-up on the Droplets. They possibly could have made something out of that, but they will focus on the burn. Now, what damage is there for the side of those guys is starting to overwhelm the numbers of EKevin, except for EKevin himself, who is unafraid at low health.
Yeah, they're just trading a lot of damage, and a lot of damage going onto the very key members of those guys. The Valor dropping very low, not having the shields there to help sustain herself, and is actually going to be forced back. And also the Tassadar drop quite low as well, as they are going to go in all onto the Malfurion. He goes down immediately, so that's a brilliant start to the fight for those guys. And now they're going to start working their way towards the rest of the members. The Lucio speed boost is just too strong, allowing the rest of the team to catch up. Let's just see Blue Demon just chasing after fast. He's going to actually get the kill onto the Muradin. A nice finish off there. And that is going to help secure the rest of the Immortal, and with only 2 members left on the side of EKevin, I'm not sure if they'll be able to prevent this Immortal from going over to those guys.
And they've got Itobi back, so they'll make what fight out of it that they can. No stun's going to come through. It will be an Immortal going over to the side of those guys. EKevin in a little bit of trouble. That's going to be a good route. He does get healed up, but he's got no more blinks away, and he will go down. Dan is now here looking to grab Blue Demon. Gets a little bit of silence onto the Tassadar Treebeard. He continues to float himself to safety. Droplets is here. They put up a good fight to that, but losing EKevin is going to be a little bit of a problem for them. They do still have the fort to defend. EKevin will be back up in about 3 or 4 seconds, but they're going to send Droplets down to the bottom to clear the experience he can. Ooh, that is that goodbye Alarak.
Yeah, that was a lot of damage. The Counter-Strike came out and did a decent amount of damage to Blue Demon, but without any follow-up, this is not really damage that's all that valuable, as they are going to start working their way in. They do have a level advantage. The Heroics are now up on both sides, but we're just not seeing the impact coming out from the members of EKevin just yet. Down a little bit, we actually do see the mosh pit this time. We've seen a couple of stage dines over the course of the evening, but we finally have that mosh pit yet again on that ETC, wanting to get those high impact plays. And they're just going to keep on pushing. We do have droplets off to the side. Oh, the mosh pit does start to come in, does get interrupted, so they're not able to get anything out of it. They do start working their way. Oh, there is the mosh pit, locks down 2 members. They are going to be able to interrupt it. Just a great Twilight Dream, as they're just going to clean up the fight.
That was perfect. It kept the Genji alive long enough for them to get massive damage out. And Faz is not done chasing, is looking to jump in, gets the dwarf toss. Ooh, there's the combo, but it's a Sonya. Not gonna catch Sonya on your own friend, and the turnaround off of Itobi's Twilight Dream.
That was a massive Twilight Dream. It was looking so very good for the side of those guys, but that Twilight Dream just turned it on its head. And now it looks like EKevin's team should be able to at least start clawing their way back into this game. Those guys are close to getting to level 13 and that talent tier advantage, but with that little extra boost, it should help EKevin try and get close. But as you see on the bottom side, Dan getting caught out, all 5 members. He is not going to be able to get out of that. But it does give a lot of extra time over to EKevin to just push down this top side, try and just take down some of those structures and just close the gap without risky fighting.
Yeah, they. I mean, I think if he had just stayed on the, if he just stayed on the fort, he actually might have killed it. And like he was dead no matter what he was gonna do. The moment he saw people, should be like, "Alright, I'm just gonna take the fort with me." But attempts to scurry away gets shut down. Sonya will take the camp in the bottom for that. There will be shaman camps all around, and both teams will reset looking for their next fight. 30 seconds on the next Immortal. 13 talent here will be in for the side of EKevin. So they'll be fighting on more or less an even playing field unless they get caught out again. And Blue Demon has been leading the charge here. Is this support Lucio? There's not a great crowd control answer, no good guaranteed crowd control to set up the kill for him. Down goes the root. Faz takes a lot of damage. Out comes it's gonna heal himself up. Dragon Blade through, but there's the sound barrier. Twilight Dream was used, but it didn't really connect onto anything significant. Droplets is very low, and they are just moving forward. It's a slow locomotive of doom led by the conductor Lucio. Blue Demon will lead his team to victory by speeding them forward. They will take 2 kills for it and now begin their pressure onto the Immortal.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was talking about at the very start, is like, if this lineup from those guys are able to play that back to front team fight, they have the more consistent lineup. Yeah, if those resets start coming in for EKevin's lineup, they can really just rip a team fight, rip a team apart. But we saw in that fight just then, they were able to just play the fight as they wanted, and they were able to isolate that Marauding, take care of him, and from there was really not much that the rest of EKevin's team could do. They just didn't have the front line to stand there, and yeah, in the end it goes over to those guys, and they're in a pretty decent position to grab this next Immortal with a decent amount of shield on it.
Yep, there's gonna be silence on the gunner. The volley is forced back. There's the mosh pit, but it's gonna be instantly canceled out, and first kill going over to the side of EKevin. The precept begins. Protect onto droplets. He's gonna get stunned out. If you're in midair, friend, you are not invulnerable. You are not old school Murden. You are not old school Falstad. Stun onto the Li Ming. EKevin takes a little bit of damage for his trouble. And that major heroic, that team fight heroic mosh pit was basically useless, but the sound barrier is back up. The Archon is in play. Great silence onto the Vala, but they can't land the last bit of stun. The Stormbolt does not connect. They're just going to slow roll themselves to finishing off this Immortal. 3 seconds on the ETC. He's not going to be there anytime soon, so they should be able to very easily burn this on the side of EKevin. The question is, does Average Joe think there's a team fight to be had? He is walking forward, taking a little bit of damage, slowing down the proceedings, but I think the fate of this Immortal is inevitable.
Yeah, with the amount of poke coming in from this Li Ming from the side, it's very hard to prevent a lot of that poke coming in onto the Immortal, and it's almost like an inevitability that they will end up taking it, but they back off. EKevin's lineup, they do back off very far, just kind of resetting as we do have the ETC finally back into it, but they do start working their way in onto the point. They try and take the last bit of that health from that Immortal. There they go, they secure it. And yeah, I feel as though it all just goes back to that play, that attempted play from Satat on the ETC, trying to get that mosh pit going. He was just dropped way too low too soon, and him going down that early, it left his team in a really awkward position because they do not have that ETC in that front line. They need him there to at least be an anchor point for the rest of the team to play around. When he's not there, the rest of the team has to play so very cautiously, especially with this very high damage lineup coming out of EKevin.
I think this might be an oversight from the side of EKevin. They didn't clear the massive bottom wave that was there. They're not clearing the big top wave. They may get caught in the level 16 fight underneath this, but that's a lot of damage on ETC. A good set of CCs. That's through the Dragon Blade, through Sound Barrier, cancels out a lot of that initial damage. They need to get Satat. They need that initial reset droplets, and EKevin will be able to back themselves up and start throwing damage forward. Good Twilight Dream to slow down everybody, silence them out. There's going to be another reset. Itomi is still alive. As we Dwarf Toss forward, can they get on the Tree Beard? Can they get on the Blue Demon? The supports are all that's alive. They're going to get the keep. I take back what I said. This play is working out for them in spades. They will walk away with a major objective. They just need to clear up that top. They're not going to end the game now. They need to get some people backing, pick up that experience. It's a good set of plays coming up from the side of EKevin.
Yeah, they're really utilizing this composition very well, and the Alarak with the telekinesis just moving people into those stuns is just so powerful on this map. And we saw ETC trying to not be there, but once he got hit with one thing, he was all of a sudden dragged into the Immortal Stun, and then from there all the damage came through. He was in no position to fight, tried to get out of there. It was a valiant effort, but in the end, ends up going down. And as we saw in the fights previously, once the ETC goes down, the rest of the team just doesn't really have that back-to-front stability in team fights to stick around, and it just crumbles from there.
All right. Camp decisions, interesting. Going for the middle camp, or going for the top camp is EKevin, and now going for the bottom camp is the side of those guys. They wanted to get their Fallen Shaman out faster. Mild adaptation. I don't think either team was going to be showing up to pick a fight, but it was the safer play from the side of those guys in the more aggressive positioning from EKevin to take their side Khazra camp first. Camps will be cleared out in kind. It's really just experience and biding their time until the next Immortal shows up in 30 seconds, but there are catapults moving in this bottom lane. So now that that is cleared, there's no contesting of those camps. That wave is going to start to push in, and become a problem.
Yeah, and essentially with this next Immortal phase, EKevin's team can slow roll this, because as you mentioned, those catapults on the bottom lane, they are going to continuously pressure. They don't necessarily need to go for those team fights, but the Mirrodin is going to be taking a lot of pressure. It does have to pop the avatars. The Dragon Blade comes flying through as they do turn it around. The ETC is the first one to drop. It goes down immediately. Droplets does manage to dash his way out of there, and they're able to turn the fight around. Average Joe is going to go down, but they do manage to take down the Genji for it. It is just the supports and the Valor left, and double support is a hell of a drug, but it's not going to be enough to keep all alive this Valor when there's just so much pressure coming through from this EKevin lineup, and they're just going to be wiping through yet again. It's just the supports left, and they really cannot do a thing to stop this onslaught that is the EKevin lineup.
Yeah, they're going to have to give up this Immortal and focus on the clear, because there's a big wave starting to build up in the bottom. Maybe they get a little bit of damage, but I think Treebeard could be better off clearing, leaving that to Blue Demon, who's not going to get that done very quickly, is now going to join his teammate and try and bring down some of those minions. They have to deal with that eventually. They have to be worried about getting picked off. Dan is looking for it, and now a nice aggressive position for Itobi based upon where this one spawned. Tat is now back. He's going to get the mosh pit instantly canceled out. You got to get that Li Ming. You got to get a lot of targets in that one before you're going to be able to make that happen. It's got to be that 5-man money mosh, and that's unlikely to happen to Tat. So instantly canceled out. Massive wave starting to rack up in the bottom. If they don't go and deal with that soon, that's going to be 2 minion waves, 2 sets of actually 3 minion waves with 2 catapults. And the moment they leave to go deal with it, it's going to be an Immortal going down.
Yeah, this is essentially what I was saying at the very start of this Immortal phase. EKevin's lineup, they don't have to rush this. They have the map control with that bottom wave just pushing in. And as you mentioned, the Tazar shows on the bottom side, that's the signal for the rest of the red lineup to start moving away onto that Immortal. He's burning it down, and there's really not much that those guys can really do about it at this point. They're trying to make their way forward. They're trying to put forward that aggressive defense, but it's just not really working out just yet. They're just not able to get anything to land as the murder takes a lot of damage. They actually take him down incredibly low. The Avatar does get popped at the very end, but they're not able to get any kill just yet. But still, a very good position for those guys. They look like they're trying to get the kill. They get the first kill. Can they keep this going? The silence goes through, but they're not able to do much more than that. So they grab the kill, but I'm not sure that those guys did really get anything out of it, as the Genji was able to backcap the Immortal.
They gotta kill the Genji. They gotta find him, and he's now walking back into attack. Is he gonna get booped back? Ooh, he gets pulled away.
You know what? Protected, by the way. Protected.
Nice by, yeah, nice by Dan. He'll boop somebody away and give Genji the space to dash. And they actually really needed that Genji pick off, or to give them advantage. Oh,
perfect!
Bye. That's gonna be a great kill coming in from Dan. He'll be traded back though, so. This will create some space for the side of those guys. They'll lose probably just the wall, maybe also the keep if the members of EKevin can make something happen. They're going to throw in much additional damage, wave clear damage as they can. And Average Joe take a little bit of poke. They may actually be able to guarantee that this gets a second keep if they feel confident.
Well, there's also those teleports on the bottom lane that they need to be actually quite aware of it. We aren't able to do a decent amount of damage. The keep is dropping quite low, but with just the 3 members, the 4th really just now making his way there. They're not able to get that keep, but still a very good position and nice fight. Nice fights coming out actually for both sides. So it was a great pickup on the Alarak to give those guys just that little bit of extra space to try and defend. But still, it's a very awkward position for them to be in. They have a lot of work to do to get back into this game.
Yeah, 1 keep down, 2nd keep is low. It's going to be an uphill battle, to say the least, but they definitely have a composition that can do it if Satat lands the Money Mosh, which is actually starting to ask a lot, because it really means he has to get Li Ming, and he has to get Alarak. Murder, you can body block some of that, but
the only person that you're okay to not get in that mosh pit is the Genji, and they do actually interrupt it immediately. Look at the damage going on to the side. They do actually have the death metal, but it's actually look at all of them. That's all of them in there. They do manage to take down 2 members. They get the 3rd. They're starting to turn this around. You're looking for the 5-man money mosh pit, but it turns out it's death metal that gets it. In the end, they do end up losing the Lucio, so they can't really chase all that much in the end, but it is going to be a great fight going over to the side for those guys. And
that was the moment. That was the moment.
That was one. That was the money mosh, and it was all on that level 20 talent of the death metal. It's really easy to get caught out by that.
Death metal only works once. Or, correction, death metal should only work once.
It should only work once. It's that surprise factor of all of a sudden he dies and it's like, alright, let's go forward. All of a sudden, he's still going, he's still dancing, he's still belting out a tune. He's like, oh, we're in a really bad position right now. Let's not do that again. And I'm not sure they'll be able to get that play to happen again, so they need to make the most of what they have. They are going to be able to get the first phase of this Immortal. And with members only just now respawning on the side of EKevin, I'm not sure if those guys will be able to get the rest of this Immortal, or if a defense coming out from EKevin, the 2 members will be enough to force them away.
Yeah, they'll get the time. They get just enough time to get everybody there. And now it looks to be another 5v5 team fight. Avatar up in 5 seconds. That's really the key, is when Murden feels confident, he can step up and really turn this into a fight. It's going to be looking to body the angles out. They've actually sent Genji to clear a wave for about half a second. I'm not sure that was the best course of action. Murden in a little bit of trouble. They're going to get a root onto Average Joe. He'll take some damage. EKevin throws out his full combo. So that hits that spell shield. And nothing so far. They're looking for this little bit of all poke. Droplets has now shown up to back up the team, and we're waiting for that power slide from Satat.
Yeah, well, yet again, this is another phase where EKevin, they don't need to play this too quickly. They don't need to rush it. As you can see on the bottom side, there are catapults pushing in that are going to be putting pressure onto that core, and they have to be dealt with eventually, or else this game is just going to end as the sound barrier does get dropped as the Counter-Strike is trying to get some value, but none actually goes through. As the Dragonfly is actually going to be dropped onto the backside, but he gets locked down immediately. He's going to get demolished as the Genji is just not a factor in this fight. Mosh Pit gets interrupted a little bit too late. They're just training kills left, right, and center. The death metal yet again locks down 2, and they're not able to interrupt that one. So they're able to end up trading favorably in that fight. Maybe they should get this Immortal for themselves to help on defense, but this very staunch defense coming out of EKevin is helping out very much.
I mean, death metal should only work twice. I mean, it was a good play. It was a good look from Li Ming. The initial reset off of the Twilight Dream seemed to make sense. It was just she was just a little bit out of position. And it's hard when you're blinking around. You're looking for all of those combos. You want to be able to get that Calamity damage in there, which she has taken at 13. I believe that's Calamity. No, she's got Illusionist. No, it's Calamity. Calamity's the
Calamity at 7. Illusionist at 13.
Yeah.
The range of it.
Same symbol. Same symbol. It's fine.
Exactly. It's all teleport. But there's one thing to note is that throughout all this fight, the amount of damage put onto the core of those guys, they're only at 38% left, and they're having to deal with waves of minions just pushing into their base, and they're not able to get the most advantage out of this Immortal just yet, and that's going to allow EKevin's lineup to start chipping away at the shield before any kind of pressure starts coming in.
I mean, you're winning until you lose, said one great mobile player one day. They still haven't, there's still space for them to be able to make themselves a comeback. They're starting to get these team fights rolling. They may not get this keep. I believe they've got the space to do it. Now they're going to put some pressure on the Faz. As ETC is going to go forward, he's going to look to get some damage off. They don't get off the mosh, but he's silent the whole time. But the death metal, it gets them again. The third time's the charm. Dan taking massive damage into the backline. Gunner still surviving. Out comes the Dragonblade. He's going to get sent up by the Rain of Vengeance. Can they finish him off? They do. They manage to get that one more kill. And Faz is down. It is Dan and Itobi left to hold down the fort. The base has been cracked open.
Surely the third time isn't gonna catch them out. But this is actually a really good position. This is like the only shot that they have left. They're trying to go in onto the core. A lot of damage coming up from the Alarak, a great sound barrier, and they're just going to turn and burn onto the Alarak. Once he goes down, there's just nothing left stopping those guys from actually just pushing away onto the core. And after being behind so much in this game, pushed all the way to the brink, they managed to get these late game team fights to stick. The consistent lineup comes together. They are able to get those team fights, and they are actually going to win this game and make their way to the grand final.
I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Fool me the third time.
Even though I've already gotten the reference wrong, it's fine.
Everyone else is shamed at that point.
It's just 3 times shame. It looks good. They got off so much silence. They killed the ETC without him getting off the mosh pit, and then Li Ming was just a little too far forward.
And like, to be honest, throughout that game, I was starting to get a little bit critical of Satat on that ETC. His positioning was sometimes a little bit questionable, going a little bit too far. I guess if you hit 20 and you take death metal, that bad positioning is kind of a benefit in the end, because they essentially won that game off the back of 3 death metals.
Yep.
That's it. They were losing a lot of that game. Those mosh pits were not getting value whatsoever. They were getting interrupted immediately. We saw interruptions coming from so many members on the side of EKevin's lineup.
Yeah.
Mosh pits were not valuable throughout that entire game. It was the death metal where you can't interrupt that. You're just stuck there dancing, and the damage started to come through then, and they started to get those team fights, and they almost lost that game. If one of those later, I think the second last fight went a little bit longer, those catapults would have taken down the core. So they were able to get the fights just in time, and they were so close to losing that. But on the back of death metals, those guys move ahead to the grand final.
All right, so we will be moving into the grand finals. It will be best of 3. It's going to be those guys versus Oh My Science, who have won on the other side of the bracket. So we'll be hopefully getting into that fairly soon. I want to thank you guys for joining us at the HeroesHype Holiday Series. And the source joining me has been GL Phoenix. Make sure you guys are checking out the Matcherino page to help support the event. There's some cool gear there, discounted down to $30, headsets and keyboards, as well as you guys can enter in the Matcherino code HHH1. Costs you nothing but a couple of keystrokes. You'll add $1 to the prize pool. And now it is back to Source and GL Phoenix breakdown concepts in esports. This is a fun side event, that's going on. There's not a whole lot of pressure here. There's not that many storylines to talk about. We're not getting too deep into what the players are up to. We're just playing games, having a good time.
Yeah, where were we when we left off? I think we finished up on the voice. We finished up on
voice comms. We just finished going through voice comms, and I brought up some of the stuff with the team with the head coaches, which I brought up because Coffin Luck has now become the head coach of Heroes Hearth. So, like I was saying, I think the only 2 teams without head coaches are Roll20 and Team Freedom. Although I could be wrong, they could have coaches or more support staff they just haven't announced or talked about. But I believe that those are the only 2 without notable or known head coaches. Which means we're starting to see how coaches and support staff are going to start to affect Heroes teams, at least within the States. Europe's been a little bit better about it. Korea and China have had plenty of support staff for those rosters.
They've had infrastructure for years. They've got the infrastructure that has been set down.
They just transfer the infrastructure that already exists over to another team.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, the whole system that they have over there. And
Kespa's pretty efficient. They have their problems like anybody else, but they're fairly efficient about integrating new games into the system.
Yeah, and it's how they keep on getting winning teams in everything, really.
Let's see. Yeah, in terms of interesting changes, I'd say the changes to rosters and how that's going to affect the Open. We're still waiting for a lot of the details on the Open series. But in theory, it runs more or less the same way. So the question becomes, how are you going to secure the safety of Open rosters with the new roster rules for the HCC teams, because they're going to be looking to add new talent fairly quickly? Or even, do you start adding in more subs, setting up a reserve squad?
Just going... to answer that question, essentially with the ANZ announcement, is that essentially with our Premier Division and Open Division, is that when a team promotes up from the Open Division, that their players, I believe, cannot be picked up by any of the other top teams. So to try and protect against that kind of
but that only protects you when you're talking about promotion.
So just
I'm talking like midway through the season. This isn't working out with this player on this HCC team. We need to find some new talent. They start trying somebody out. They pull somebody off of an Open team. Yes, Open teams are the breeding ground. That's the purpose. Is this breeding ground for talent? It's this breeding ground for teams to advance. But usually those roster, because of the way the roster rules work, you weren't making those changes till the end of the season. If you can change players midway through, that changes internal dynamics. If my team isn't doing that well, say we had a bad couple 2 weeks, am I prepping to jump ship? Am I trying to prove that I'm the best and I'm not really playing for the team anymore? I'm playing for my own flashy plays, my highlight reels. Is that the best job course of action for me?
That's always a weird situation where you kind of you know that the team is not really it's not like a stable situation, and it's a very awkward situation for most involved, really, when you start taking those things into account. But Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what kind of protections there will be for open teams.
Yeah, or even, you know, the HGC teams are like, hey, we need a sub to play in HGC. Players not going to say no. They're, you know, this was even a thing the last season.
Yeah, we saw it like a few times here.
Teams need a player. They pull up somebody that they thought could sub, that they thought could fit, and then, you know, that player's missing scrims, is missing practice with their open team. You know, is never missing tournament days for sure, but, you know, that's time that's being taken away from playing with their actual team. You know, you can say there's benefits in playing with that team, getting that personal experience, adds to that individual player's confidence, but there is still some effect there.